Thanks, Nick. Oh boy, you set up some pretty high expectations there. But it's wonderful to be here. In the last year since I left Aetna and CVS, and I've been doing independent advisory work, I've been working both with marketing technology companies and marketers on how to think about incorporating AI into aspects of their strategy and their operations. And it's more than just simply bringing a new technology and a new analytic capability in. There are downstream implications of AI for how you think about organization structure, the processes that you have, how you work with your vendors. And so AI is going to have significant ripple effects as marketers think about how advanced thinking through machine learning is going to change their business. And what I'd like to do is just give a quick fly through of some examples. I'm very deliberately staying away from the big players. Certainly Salesforce, Adobe have very big AI operations going that marketers are starting to use. But there's also smaller, more focused companies that are coming up with interesting technologies that are being adopted by both large companies and small companies and are making significant changes in how they think about their operations and strategy. So let me start first with talking about how it's changing the way you can understand what's going on in terms of your customers or your spend, and how that can then translate into new kinds of programs that you can operate. Then later, I'm going to talk about how you can actually change the nature of the customer experience using AI and personalization capabilities. So first, I'd like to talk about an area called customer journey analytics. And one company, and there are others in this area that I have come to know from both the client and the technology side, is called Pointillist. And essentially, there's two parts to this AI. One is to string together all of the touches that a customer has across your operations, using AI to go into all the systems of record and create a central database. And it's not just simply a new kind of CDP, a customer data platform. It is actually a database that is time-stamped and deliberately designed to do journey analytics. So you can understand what's happening to customers as they go through from a time perspective. So you can understand, for example, what's happening to people before they call into a call center. Did they use an app right before they called into the call center? If so, that's a problem, because in most cases you want to keep people on the app and not calling into the call center. What happens to people when they have joined you as a new customer and you're trying to onboard them? Are they getting online and are they adopting the new capabilities that you'd like to get them into? And if you have customers that are visiting you across multiple channels, how do those different channels work together? Which ones are the ones that seem to drive a higher rate of purchase, for example? So you can actually look at journeys to understand what's happening, actually identify breaks in things, find big things to fix, such as an app that may have a problem, find individual customers who may not be doing the kinds of behaviors that would benefit them and that would help you manage cost in the experience, and then use that as a trigger to reach out to those customers to take specific actions. So it's a whole different way of thinking about customer journeys at the individual customer tracking level, where you're getting real data instead of just survey data that allows you to manage and fix what's going on while also orchestrating and personalizing a journey. When things happen, you can find out immediately and mobilize against it. When people call in, you can understand what has happened to them before they even show up. So that's on the customer journey side and looking at what's going on with individual customers. Another big area of analytics is what's going on in the media world. And increasingly, media spend is becoming more and more fragmented across many different channels, different kinds of campaigns. And if you're the kind of marketer that I've been working with a lot, you're doing all kinds of agile marketing where you're constantly testing and learning across multiple platforms, trying to figure out what works. There's now intelligence, and one company that's in this space is called Elsie, that allows you to think about your media investment like a Wall Street hedge fund and understand what's going on in terms of your media spend in real time and be able to rebalance that and create scenarios for what happens if I move $500,000 from this particular type of targeting that I'm doing on Facebook into, let's say, paid search on Google. What does that mean in terms of my returns? Where should I put that money for maximum impact? So you can actually look at how you've been spending money, what the impact of that has been, what's happening in terms of the cost trends in each of those channels. Are certain terms or certain targets getting more expensive than you anticipated? And you can actually algorithmically develop media plans across all the different ways you want to spend, across products, across channels, see what happens, and then balance that in real time. So it's much more like a Wall Street hedge fund. And this is causing quite a few marketers now to think about bringing it in-house. So bringing media management in-house. The actual execution of the buy may go with agencies who have capabilities to manage those logistics, but understanding the analytics of what's going on and how you can better perform with the media spend you have, or if you have more to spend or less to spend, all of that can now be managed with these kinds of next generation investment optimization platforms. And Elsie is a good example of that. So think about now, the whole operation you may have for media buying. Instead of hiring all kinds of data science folks, you can actually get these kinds of models that allow you to manage on a day-to-day basis. Another area that we're seeing really exciting operations coming in for optimization is thinking about the nature of the offers that you're putting out into the market. So for example, when I was at Aetna, one of the questions we had was, what is the best way to get people to take healthier actions? Get their flu shot, not go to an emergency room, but go to an urgent care center nearby. How do we motivate people to take actions that would be smarter for them, lower their cost, probably be healthier for them? But we knew who we wanted to target, we knew what we wanted them to do, but we didn't know how to get them to do it. And so we would have to create all kinds of different variations and manage on a multivariate testing basis a range of tests. And we actually tried to do it our own way. It was a mix of manual and quite a bit of data science. But now there are platforms, and one that I've come to know, OfferFit, that allows you to use AI to set up the cells for those tests and manage all of that and optimize it in real time. A good example is how they've been transforming Brinks Home Security. I've gotten to know the CEO there, and they're amazed at how AI is transforming the nature of their business. They have to get people to renew. They want to get people to upgrade their systems to wireless. There's a lot of different actions that they're trying to do across their customer base. But if they just simply went out with something that was average, they might give too much away. and they might not give enough to motivate certain people. And so there's different variables, some of which are the nature of the discount, but also when to contact somebody, what's the right creative to use, what's the right channel and rhythm to use. There's many, many different variables. And we were managing all of those manually, but there's now artificial intelligence capability to be able to take all of those possibilities, proactively test them, get back data, who responded to what worked for whom, and then use that data to gradually optimize over time the right mix of things for each individual customer. And you can see on the right how gradually the intelligence tests, and so the performance goes down a bit while they're testing, and then it goes up as they learn. And so eventually, in this particular case, Brinks was getting 4 times their daily performance versus the control group. And so the CEO, Bill Niles of the company, is now applying artificial intelligence not only in marketing, but also in areas such as service scheduling, thinking about how to manage upgrades. And he's seeing it as a dramatic transformation across his business. And there's companies now like OfferFit that allow you to look at all of that multivariate testing and manage that in a much cleaner, simple way. This is being used now in B2B to think about how to structure deals for different kinds of clients, especially when you've got a large base of small businesses. It's being used in the gaming business to think about the right way to incent people to buy up to get the new kinds of characters or special chits that allow them to take shortcuts in a game. It's being used in the financial services business on stimulation offers for credit cards. So there's a lot of different ways where this kind of both multivariate testing and personalization, because what comes out of it isn't just the best single answer, but the best answer across the base. And then the last area of analytics I want to talk about is a whole new area of managing your data that's opening up. One of the challenges that we always had in my marketing organization was finding new sources of data that we could use as overlays to create smarter and smarter models. And the logistics of buying that data, setting up contracts, working through data brokers, understanding where that data really came from, how much of it was really permissioned, it was a hassle. It was a big procurement nightmare. And there are now marketplaces coming up that are much simpler and much smarter that can allow you to buy and also sell data that is appropriate to be sold on the market. So one company that's gotten into this space that I've seen being used, especially by large marketers who are trying to find new overlays because they're losing cookie data and they want to enhance and build overlays on top of whatever first-party data they can get. This company is called Narrative. And so they have a marketplace where you can buy and sell data. But the other brilliance of this is that they're using AI to take that data and normalize it so it can go into your data repository, your CDP or your DMP, and have it normalized with all the other data schema that are in there. And so the data, with just one click, you can import, onboard that data, and it's now consistent with the other data fields you have. And if you buy more than one source, it'll actually find all the overlaps in terms of data. So it'll clean up overlapping data, any duplications that are there, and simplify the ability to just import it into your database. Similarly, if you have data that you can sell, It's very easy to set up a data shop and use the marketplace to find new buyers for your data. And I personally think this is going to grow as a market. It's not all individual person level data. It's also things like environmental data about weather patterns, crop growth, traffic patterns. All of that is now being bought and sold in this marketplace, all of which can be used for forecasting, for targeting, for developing new kinds of models. And especially if you don't have the rich resources and access to data that a Google, Facebook, or Amazon might have, you're going to likely need to find other ways to augment the data you have. This is a way of doing that. And again, if you have data to sell, it's a way to create a simpler way of going to market. So this is a whole area of data commerce that I personally think is going to grow and actually become a category that we'll be talking about a lot more, simplifying data logistics as a process. And I expect this to become more important over time, and companies like Narrative becoming ones that you're going to become more familiar with over time. Oops. Oh, shoot. Let me just get back in here. Okay. So then let's talk about customer experiences and AI being used to create more tailored new ways of actually interacting. The examples that I talked about before were more from the analytics and data side. One of the areas I've become very excited about is personalizing video. Video has been an area that is clearly getting more and more engagement over time. Just think about when you sign on to get a new phone, you sign on to a new healthcare plan, you are frequently inundated with text. You get a lot of content, you don't understand the content, you don't pay attention to it. You get bills you may not really understand everything in that bill. There's tons of ways of using video to rethink the customer experience. You're also using video more, for example, in over-the-top TV marketing, digital video being used in areas, YouTube pre-rolls, all of that. And what if you can actually tailor that video at much lower cost to each individual customer? Instead of creating thousands of videos, what if you can just create 16 different variations that can be chopped up, remixed, and based on the data you have about somebody, then put back together into a coordinated video. And so one company we used at Aetna to great effect was called Sunday Sky. And you can use them for marketing. We use them a lot for customer experience. We created personalized onboarding videos for each of our customers. We got a 70% watch rate on a 4-minute video. The people who watched those videos were higher renewers. They also ended up not going to the emergency room as much because those videos told people how they could save money on their plans. But you can also use them for marketing. And here's a small company called Naked Wines and how they use this capability to create tailored videos. So if somebody wanted white wine, if they had bought that in the past, you can open up the video with talking about white wine. You can then tell a little bit more about the wines that are available, and then tailor an offer on the back end. All of that based on information you have about the individual customer. And the fact that you can now do this at scale, and then the intelligence, and this is linked, for example, it's linked right through to Adobe, so you can understand what's happening in terms of the click-through rates and the landing, and then you can use this to optimize how you're creating the videos for each individual customer. Another interesting technology is called Affinity, and this is actually taking the customer experience that happens not online, but actually when you call into a call center. So based on intelligence that you have about the customer calling in and about the rep and about what the topic is likely to be, predicting what that might be, you can actually match the customer with the best rep to close the sale, to complete the service experience, and have a higher quality rate on those interactions between the members and the agents. And Affinity is working in a number of different service industries, in banking, in telecom, in retail, in healthcare, and they're seeing improvement rates on sales in the 5 to 9% range. They're also seeing customer service calls being completed dramatically higher, like 20% higher quality in terms of first call resolution. And because the way they run the technology, they run it 80% of the time, and then they don't run it for 20%, so you can see test versus control, the actual lift you're getting. And you're now seeing better response from the customers about the brand and the nature of the interaction that they've had as well, because of the higher quality in the pairing that's actually going on. And then the last example is a company called Presato, which uses natural language processing to actually work through the exact words that would make sense for an individual, drawing on a library, actually in multiple languages, of what would be the best way to literally construct the words for different individuals of how you might frame the creative and the offer. So this is an exciting new area. I actually think about a simple framework called IDEAL to create the ideal experience. But it's with AI now, it's about drawing on an expanding range of data signals that you can bring together and integrate. You can use that now to design better experiences that are informed by analytics and enabled by these new personalization capabilities for generating experiences. You can better engage each customer, and using that data and the personalization you can provide as a way to get them to appreciate the brand and then actually be better activated. And then you're constantly learning by testing and optimizing. So it's a really exciting time. It's opening up a lot of possibilities, especially personalization at scale, managing customer experiences at an individual level. I mean, these are things that were not possible before that can happen now. And on one side, you can see it creating differences in terms of brand experiences and performance. And I actually think brands will start differentiating themselves by the nature of how they're using AI to drive experiences. And then along the way, you'll see more cost efficiencies as these companies won't need as much in terms of data science capability and marketing operations processes, because the technologies themselves enable things to happen in a much more seamless way. So I think I have about 5 minutes for questions that could come through the chat. I know I just went through a hell of a lot, and always you can send me an email via the ANA, and I'm happy to explain more or share more. So let me just go to stop share here and see if there's any questions that you have.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. Unfortunately, we don't have the chat activated today, just because of the complexity of the logistics. So we're going to just transition out. And thank you so much for all that you gave us. And like you said, you went through a ton. So for anyone who is interested, obviously you can get in touch with Dave through his contact information. And we will, I do believe also, Dave, have this presentation available in the download. Correct?
Yeah, this presentation will be available. There's also, if you looked on LinkedIn about all of these topics, there's articles I've published that have a lot more depth about how these work and their implications. So you can look at some of the articles, all the topics that I covered today. I have some more depth about them, so you can see that there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any final last words? I mean, it's really, I think we could talk about this for the entirety of the 24 hours. And frankly, we probably should. But is there anything else you want to leave the audience with?
I just think it's an exciting area to start experimenting with. I think it's important not to just only rely on the big players, but to think about more explicitly aspects of where you might have leverage in your business, where intelligence, either in the analytics or in the experience, can really make a difference. Think about the leverage points where that can distinguish you. Whether it's in terms of the customer journey, we talked about managing your media spend, optimizing your offers, finding new sources of data, personalizing videos. All of these are areas where there's a lot of opportunity for marketers in different sectors. And I really believe in starting to see the results that customers notice that. They start to see the experiences being better as they get smarter and personalized. My bet is their expectations will go up, and brands that are able to use these muscles are going to be able to distinguish themselves more in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, it's great because I think AI especially has been out there in discussion for such a long time. And now all of a sudden people realize they're actually using it, but are they really, like you just said, living up to the full opportunity, because they're using it to take costs out or do more things more quickly at greater scale, but they're not necessarily embracing the opportunity to completely reimagine the things. And so I think what you just kind of laid out there gives a good dose, a shot in the arm. So hopefully people can take away some inspiration and new thinking out of what you just laid out. So thank you again.